Hey everybody, this is Laurie Meyer from stampedgreetings.com, and I am posting this in our Facebook group, our Stamp Club group, for those of you who were on our meeting a couple of Sundays ago. You remember that my computer decided it was done with the internet, and it definitely threw a little bit of a monkey wrench into me being able to share a video on how to make this card. But I am going to make sure that this video works because I really do want to share this fun card with you. Lattice cards are all the rage right now, and this is one that I really like. It's a little bit different than some of the lattice cards I've seen, which are vertical or horizontal in the way that the lattice is put together. As you can see, there's a crisscross, a diagonal going from either side, and it's just super fun. This also pairs a couple of different bundles that are available. One is the Tropical Leaf Bundle, and it's a punch bundle. It has this wonderful stamp set and this very fun punch, and this is available as an online exclusive. So if you want it, you will need to go to an online store. Want to make sure that you know that that is available right now. And then the other bundle that I'm using is also a punch bundle, and it is the Hello Ladybug. This is so much fun to use, and I'm really happy that it is carrying forward into the new annual catalog. And I'll be using a couple stamps from that set and also the punch. But I want to just dive in and show you how to make this card. And I also want to make sure that I give credit to the person who inspired this card. BB Cameron is an amazing artist, and very recently she had a guest video that was shared on Jennifer McGuire's post on her blog. And BB has a collection of stamps and other things that she used to make some really cool lattice cards. And I took one of her inspirations and I changed it up quite a bit. I definitely don't like to copy. Her card was a 5x7. I've changed this into a regular A2 size card. And I also added a couple little tweaks just to make sure that it had a little bit of a difference, again, so that I wasn't copying. But let's just jump in. So to make this card and the lattice, you're going to need one sheet of 8.5 by 11. You can make it any color you want. As you can see, I chose to make mine in white. So this is a piece of basic white. And the first thing that you're going to do is you're going to take that basic white piece, put it in your trimmer, and on the 11-inch side, you're going to cut that in half. And obviously that means that you're going to cut it at 5.5 inches. That is going to give you 2 halves of your sheet, and each of those will measure 5.5 by 8.5. Put one to the side for now, but keep one and just turn it 90 degrees so that you have the 8.5-inch side at the top of your trimmer, and you're going to cut that at 4.25. And again, you're just cutting that piece of paper in half. So right now you have 2 quarter sheets. Each of these measures 4.25 by 5.5. We're going to use those as the base of the card, not the lattice part, but the piece that's in the back. All right, so you can put those 2 pieces to the side, and then grab the piece that you just put to the side. This is the other half of that 8.5 by 11 piece. And what you're going to do is we're going to create the lattice pieces. You need 6 of these. And I'm going to use the right side of the ruler on my paper trimmer. And I have this in so it's at the 5.5 is horizontal, the 8.5 is vertical. I need 6 vertical pieces, or 6 pieces that are 1/2 inch wide by 8.5 inches high. I'm not going to bore you to tears by cutting these. I've already cut them. I'll just show you how to do one. So I'm putting one over here at the 1/2 inch mark, and I'm just going to cut that. And I will end up with 6 pieces when I cut 6 individual ones. Each will be 1/2 inch wide and 8.5 inches long. Then I'm going to cut a 7th piece. So let's just pretend this is the 7th piece that I cut. And I'm going to cut that in half at 4.5 inches. All right, so when you do all of that cutting and you use your initial piece of paper, here's what you're going to end up with. You're going to have those 2 quarter sheets, each 4.25 by 5.5. You're going to have 6 pieces of paper that are 1/2 inch wide, 8.5 inches long, and then you're going to have 2 pieces started as 1/2 inch wide, 8.5 inches long, but cut in half. These are obviously still 1/2 inch wide, but they're going to be 4.25 inches tall. Okay, these are the pieces that we're going to use to make the base of our card. Now, one other thing, and I am going to add this in a comment, so you will have this. This is a little cheat sheet that I put together that really helps if you want to make this kind of lattice card, because it gives you a template for putting the lattices together. And that's the first step that we're going to do. I'm going to take one of the pieces that I cut to the quarter sheet, 4.25 by 5.5. And you'll notice that that fits right into that rectangle that I drew in the center of this piece of paper. Obviously that was intentional because I want to make sure that I have a template for this size card. When you print this template off, make sure that it goes to the full page. That way you'll be sure that you have the right size and the right reference when you're putting everything together. What I'm going to do is you'll notice that there are 1 through 6 numbered at the top, 1 through 6 numbered at the bottom, but since we're going to be going diagonally, the 1 through 6 is broken up into 4, 5, 6, and 1, 2, 3 at the bottom. But if you put the pieces that you cut for your lattice so that 1 matches 1, I'm going diagonally, obviously, and you get the picture. 2 matches 2, so pretty easy to do. You don't need to have these at the same distance from the paper. The only thing you need to make sure that you have is a little bit of that lattice hanging off the top and hanging off the bottom, and I'll show you why in a minute. So I've got my 3 pieces. We're going to do these 3 at a time, and I'm just lining those up so that they're pretty straight. This is kind of forgiving, so they don't have to be perfect, but if you try to get them straight to begin with, you're going to be a little bit happier. I want you to notice one thing as I'm getting all of this put together. Look at the first one that I put down on this side, and that would be the number 1. You're going to notice, if you can see that corner, that there's a little bit of the corner that's showing. You don't want to put these all the way to the edge. You definitely want to have a little bit of space, and you'll see why in a minute. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a piece of Post-it note. I like these little pieces. For me, they tend to be a little bit easier to work with. And just trying to get these kind of where I want them to be. And I'm going to tack these down with a little piece of Post-it. Now you could also use washi tape. You could use any kind of low tack that you have. You do not want to have anything that has a lot of tack, because that could rip the paper when you take these up. And what we're going to do is we're going to fold these over the top. And there are a couple of different ways you can do this. You could put this in your scoring board and give it a nice little score right at the edge of the paper and fold it over. I find just doing this with my fingers tends to be the best way and the easiest. So I'm just going to fold that over, And then you're going to see on the back we have the 3 pieces, and to make them lie a little bit flatter, I'm going to take my bone folder and just give that a nice little burnish. And I'm also trying to get that fold as close to the edge of the paper as I can. And what we're going to do with these, and I'm going to get a piece of paper that's not white so you can see it a little bit better. I'm going to glue these down. So I'm going to make sure that I have them glued down. Just getting those kind of repositioned. And I'm just going to tack them down. Eventually we will cut off the piece that's going to hang over the edge for now, but I'm not going to worry about that right now. And I'm going to put glue on the pieces that I am gluing down, not on the piece I'm gluing to, because I might get glue where I don't want it. And I'm just going to lay those down and hold it down just for a couple seconds just to get it so that it's going to stay. And then we're going to repeat this process for the other side. So I'm just making sure that these are sticking down. All right, so you can see that we're building that lattice. And now I'm going to go to the other side. I am going to take these pieces of Post-it note off because I will be laying the other pieces of lattice right over what I just did. So obviously the first thing I want to do is get my paper sort of back in line on this template, and then I'm going to put the other pieces on. And we're doing the exact same thing. So once you've done one side, you know exactly what to do on the other. There are so many different designs for lattice cards. Many of them, and I'm sure you've seen them, have the lattices going vertically, going horizontally. There's some really cool ones also which don't have the lattice lining up on the card. They might be a little staggered, and they're super interesting as well. And I'm sure that when you start making these, if you haven't already, that you're going to find some really unique designs that will become your favorites. And I just invite you to do that. I think these are a lot of fun, and they're really, really nice to send to folks. It's one of those kind of wow cards. So you'll notice that I just put everything down just like we did. Nothing mystical or magical. And I'm going to come back in and I'm going to fold these pieces over. Okay, we're going to flip that over again. Let me bring in that colored piece of paper just so it's easier to see. And I will go ahead and burnish. And I'm pulling that paper with my left hand as I'm burnishing with my right. Just trying to get that as close to the edge as I can. And you'll notice too that these pieces are at a different point. These are not quite as high as the other ones. It doesn't matter. It does not matter at all. I'm going to put a little bit of glue and tack it down. Now, some people, when they get the lattice done, don't put anything on the bottom of the card, meaning I have this piece here that has hello, and it gives a little bit of a sturdy base that the card will be able to stand on. But a lot of people will leave the lattice open, and I'll show you what that looks like in just a second. All right, so that is all set. We have our lattice piece all done. I'm going to take off the Post-it notes. And then we do need to make sure that the lattices, I guess that's the plural. We need to make sure that these are hooked together. And you have options here. You can put the right ones, I'm going to call these the right on top of the left on top of the right. You can get really fancy and do kind of a braiding or a weaving if you want to. And I'm going to do this one pretty simply. I'm going to copy what I've done on the other cards, and I'm going to put the right over the left. So I'm going to get these little guys out of the way, and I'm going to do this one at a time. So I'm going to take the one that's in the middle, and what I like to do is go piece by piece. So I'm going to put dabs of glue on the 3 lattice pieces on the left, but I need to make sure I know where to put those. So I'll grab my glue, and I'm just going to bring this down and figure out that I need to put a little dot right there. And then when I go further down, I know where I need to put the dot on the next. Don't put a lot of glue. Just put a dot of whatever you're using. Glue dots would work. If you are using a tape runner, be careful just to make sure that you get it right where you want it to be. But I would really, in this case, recommend a glue like a Tombow. It's easy to use, it's forgiving, and what you don't want to do, you don't want to get any glue in between these pieces of lattice, because that will tack it down to the card. So not necessarily the best thing. I'm going to take that second piece and do the same thing. So again, I'm just looking at where I need to put the dot, and you're going to have to trust me because the camera is not pointed where I'm putting that dot of glue. You can see there's my little dot of glue. So I knew where I needed to put that, and I'm going to go all the way down. Now, what can also be fun when you're doing these is you can make your lattice a different color than the background card. Or, in this case, I could make my lattice maybe a brown and run it through an embossing folder that would have some kind of wood grains, and that could be really cool. Just to show it's more of a wood pattern, which is really pretty realistic in terms of what lattices can look like. All right, and then I've got my last one. I know this is getting a little repetitive, but that's okay. It doesn't take too long to do. And on this one, I'm just going to make sure that I'm doing the best I can to get the spacing between the lattice to look like it's about the same. We're going to be putting some punched images and doing some other things on this card, so if you don't get it perfectly spaced, let it go. It's fine. Put that piece down, and then we've got one more. Just put a little bit of glue, just making sure I know where that needs to go, and I'll put that down. All right, so we have our lattice all done as far as putting it together, and I'm making sure that I can lift it. I don't want any of that glue to seep through on the back and cause a problem. And that looks pretty good. But we do need to trim it. And whenever you are trimming paper, go to the back, and let me show you what I mean. I need to trim this off. We want it to be flush with the side. Well, I want to trim it as best as I can, and this would be the front, because that's how we folded it over. So I'm going to turn that, and I can see much better from this side where I need to trim that off. And I'm just going to give it a nice little trim. Same thing on the other side. Just going to get that so that it's nice and flush with the front of the card. And then for these little guys, I'm going to turn it over, because this is where I can see the back. And I'm just going to give each one, actually, to make sure I get this straight, I'm going to put some Post-it note back. This will make sure that they're all kind of straight on the back and everything is being held down. And then I should be able to do it in one fell swoop. And again, we're going to be adding some things at the bottom of this card. So perfection at this point is absolutely overrated. And I'm just going to cut off each of these individually. And if you don't get it perfectly aligned with the bottom of the card, again, let it go, because we're going to add some paper over the top. All right, take off these Post-it notes. And let me show you, I made a comment a couple minutes ago that a lot of people will leave the lattice card like this. And that's really cool. And if you leave it like that, it will stand, as you can see, because you've created that base that is straight. Well, I'm going to take this just a step further because I wanted to make the card a little more sturdy. And this is where I diverged from the design that I saw. So here's what we're going to do. You'll remember that one of the pieces that we cut when we did the 6 lattice pieces, there was a 7th piece, and that was cut in half. And each of these halves is a 1/2 inch wide, 4 1/4 inches long. Well, what's nice about that is the 4 1/4 inch length is the width of our card. So I'm going to put one of these at the top, and I'm going to put one of these at the bottom. And that's going to give, to me, a little bit more of a finished look, and it's also going to make this card a little more sturdy. It's going to give it a little bit more substance. And what's also nice is I have a cheat of where to put this, because I can look at the back, at that piece that I have as the back of my card. I can see where I need to put that little strip. But remember, you only want to put your glue on the lattice, because if I put glue in between the lattice pieces, the card is not going to open all the way. So I'm just putting little dots of glue up at the top. I'm going to take one of those pieces that I cut in half, or one of the pieces from cutting in half, and I'm just going to stick that right up at the top. I think it makes the card look a little neater because you can't see where I folded over the lattice. I'm just going to go ahead and give that a nice little burnish with my finger, and I can still open up the card without any problem. We're going to finish off the back in a minute as well. And now for the bottom, and I do have a tiny little piece hanging over the bottom edge. I'm just going to nip that off. I'm going to take that second piece that I cut, and I'm going to put that at the bottom. I'm going to do the same thing. Those little dots of glue. And we're going to do one more thing on the bottom when we get to that point. I'm going to turn that upside down just so I can see that card in the back. And I'm going to align that the best that I can with the bottom. And again, in my opinion, this gives a little bit more of a finished look, and it also gives a little more stability when the card will be standing, but we're not done with the bottom yet. Now, let's look at the back of the card. This is the finished card. This is the one that we're working on. Obviously, we can see the tops of the lattice pieces on the one we're working on. Well, remember, you have another piece of quarter sheet cardstock. We're going to put that on the back of the card, and we are simply going to adhere that. So I'm going to go ahead, and this time I will put glue on the quarter sheet, and it is the same size as the card pieces that we've been working on, and I will just get that aligned top and bottom and glue that together. And now the back of the card looks much more finished as well. All right, so let's take a peek of where we are versus where we're going, and we will do the decorating and talk about some of the stamps and the punches along the way. So what I would suggest at this point is that you do some of the stamping for the inside of your card, and that's really, if you flip up the lattice, you're going to see the inside of your card. And you'll notice that what I did was I used a couple of the stamps from the Ladybug set. There is a very pretty flower. And there's a very fun triple flower stamp as well. And I just popped those onto some acrylic blocks and got out my piercing mat. Get some things out of the way here. And I chose some colors that I thought would be really nice and bright, cheerful. I'm going to use crushed curry for the large flower. And I'm going to mimic pretty much what I did on the example. So I'm just going to get my ink on the stamp. And you should pay attention to where that lattice is. You probably don't want to put a lot of design right in the middle of the card because you're not going to see it. It definitely is going to be hidden by the pieces that we're going to add. And I am going to be stamping off the edge. So I'm going to put a piece of just scrap paper so I don't get ink on my piercing mat. And I'll put one flower kind of up here, upper left. There's no right, wrong way to do this. And let's see, we'll do one kind of in the middle. I'll move my flower around so it's not at the same angle all the time. And then I'll do one more, maybe down in here. And then I'm going to grab, and I'm not going to worry if it doesn't stamp completely. That is perfectly fine. I'm going to grab one of the retiring colors, polished pink. I will miss this color. I really like the intensity of the pink. It is so pretty, and I hope you have some of this in your collection. I'm going to use the 3 flowers and just do this sort of where I want to. So I'll put one up in here. Make sure when I look at the front, yep, that looks like the pink is going to show through pretty well. And then if I get another one down in here, check that again, and then I want a little pink down at the bottom. So you can switch this up however you would like. All right, so we've got our yellows and pinks in the back. And again, those colors were crushed curry and polished pink. And then I used some of the stamps from the Tropical Leaf set. And this is the one that is an online exclusive. I am going to warn you that if you add this to your collection, you will become obsessed with this stamp set. It is awesome. And it just has the best leaf images. They are really, really cool. I will show you what I did. I've already done these and punched them out, but I just want to show you how easy these stamps are to use and the amazing images that they come back with. So I'm going to get the veins for the leaves on one. There are 2 size leaves that work together. The larger one that I'm not using, but the larger one corresponds with the punch. And the small one you do need to fussy cut, but it's very, very easy. For the body of the leaf, I am using Parakeet Party. This color is carrying over. So fun. So I'm just going to go ahead and stamp that. And for those of you who know me, using a block rather than a stamp positioning tool to stamp images is something that I don't usually do, but in this case it just seemed like it was the best way to go. And then this is in Old Olive, classic color. And if I just put that over the top, isn't that awesome? It is just beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful. So what I did for the card is I made 3 of the leaves that I just did, and I cut those out. So we have 3 of the small leaves. And then the large leaf is this one. I stamped it with the exact same colors, and then I used the punch to punch it out. So those are going to go on the front of the card. And then you're also going to see that there are a couple more pieces. And they came from the Ladybug set. I've already got those all set to go, but I used the wings and I stamped those onto white. And for that, I used Sweet Sorbet, just a really, really nice red. And then I'll be honest with you, I could have stamped the body of the ladybug in black and punched it out because the punch has both the wings and the body. But I got lazy and decided that rather than stamping it, I was just going to punch out the piece from a piece of black cardstock. So that's what I did. And I'm going to use these little guys to do some of the embellishing on the card. And the first thing that I would suggest is you can either use your bone folder or your fingers and just give those wings a little bit of a curl so it looks a little more realistic. This ladybug just makes me smile. Just so cute and so fun. I've used these on a couple of different cards, and when I've sent them off, people have commented on how cheerful they are. Added just a little bit of glue, and I'm going to go ahead and put that on the body and sort of set that aside. And it's really fun because you can make the wings any color you want. Purples, yellows, blues, you know, there's no limit. It's very whimsical. And it does have a really nice 3D effect when you do that. And for the leaves, if you want to, you can give them a little bit of a curl to give them a little bit of interest. Kind of curl them different ways so that they look like they're more dimensional than a flat piece of paper. Just play around with it. There's no right, wrong. It's whatever you want to do. And then you've got the embellishments to add to the front of your card. And again, I just love this. Love, love, love. So I am going to, I've got my example off to the right. You can't see it, but I can. And I'm going to cheat, and I'm going to kind of mimic what I did. And I'm going to just add these. Now, again, be mindful. You just want to put the glue on the parts of the lattice. You don't want to put the glue on what you're going to attach because you might get them in the wrong place. So I'm going to put that leaf right there, which means I need a little dab of glue, and I don't need a lot. And then I'm going to bring that leaf back in and position it where I want and just hold that down for a second or two until the glue starts to dry. I'm going to make sure that those flowers that I stamped are visible. And I'm going to take the other large leaf, kind of tuck that up underneath the first one that I put down. And I am cheating, I know. Sorry. But I know what I did on the first card, and I liked it enough that I will pretty much copy it. So tuck that up underneath and just give that a little bit of a push. And then I've got a couple of my small leaves. I'm going to put one of these on the front, and then I'm going to attach the other 2 under the back of the lattice, just to give a little more dimension. I mean, when you look at a lattice and you see how your plants are growing, they're going to grow behind, they're going to grow in front, they might even go in and out. So I just wanted to make this look a little bit more realistic. And I'm going to put one behind, so kind of tuck one in, maybe like that, something like that. So I will put a little glue on the back. Again, I'm making sure I'm putting it on the lattice. And I will tuck that little guy right in there. Well, that looks good. So just tuck him in there. And then I've got one more, and I'm going to tuck him kind of back in like that. So we'll put a little glue right in here and tuck that one. And you can see that sometimes you do need to hold it down just for a couple seconds until it starts to stick. And that looks good because I can still see the flowers. And then I will add my ladybug, and I'll have her sort of climbing. So I'll put some glue right in here. And you may be surprised at the little amount of glue that you need. And if you find that any of these are not adhering, use your glue dots and put them strategically underneath, and they will get everything together. All right. Two more things. One is we need to add a sentiment. So here's the card that I showed you, and some bling. But I want to show you the sentiment. You can do your sentiment anywhere. You could put it on the top, you can put it in the middle, you can put it on the inside, whatever makes you happy. I decided to put mine on the bottom. And when I did that, I used one of the stamps that is in the tropical leaf. I thought this hello was super fun. And when I stamped it on a piece of what was left over from cutting my initial piece of paper. So here's my initial piece. This measures 4 1/4, which is the width of the card. I just randomly stamped on the upper left side, and then I figured out about how tall that sentiment was. This was a little under an inch. I think it was 7/8 of an inch. So I cut my piece of paper to twice that amount because I want to fold it. And this will make sense in just a minute. So if you choose to put your sentiment on the bottom, look at how big the sentiment is. An inch or so is going to be pretty good. You're not going to take up a lot of space, and you'll still see a lot of your lattice work. And get out a piece of paper. You'll have plenty left from that initial piece that you cut. Stamp in the upper left, upper right, in the middle, whatever makes you happy. And then cut your piece widthwise twice as high as you need for your sentiment. Score it in half, and you're going to fold it. And then what we're going to do is this piece is going to get glued on the bottom, and it's going to become our sentiment and also some more stability. And when I glue that on, this time I'm going to put glue on this rather than on the lattice, because for all intent and purpose I'm really gluing this piece together. I'm gluing the back to the front, and I want to make sure that it adheres. So I'm going to put some glue on either side. I'm not going to put it down near that score line because that's going to be a little too much. And then I'm right-handed, so I'm going to kind of turn this toward me. I'm going to lift this up. I'm going to put this piece on, and I'm just looking right to left to try to get that as centered as I can. And then I'm going to give it a nice little burnish. And it may take a second to adhere because you're really putting two pieces together. And I'm going around that lattice work. And then I have my sentiment on the bottom. And I just think that looks really nice. Again, it's kind of finished off. Now, we need bling, right? We always need bling. And the bling that I'm going to add is from two different packages of embellishments. I've got some brushed metallic dots, and I think these are super, super fun. I cannot find my take a pick tool, so forgive me for bringing this in, but it works the same way. And I'm just going to add a couple of the really big brass pieces onto this card. They have a lot of oomph, just a lot of really, really nice sparkle, and I think the gold helps to bring that out quite a bit. And then we're going to go with mixed metals. Gold, silver, come on, they look great together. So I'm going to grab my rhinestone basic jewels, and I'm just going to add a couple of these and strategically place them so that they really grab the eye to a lot of the detail that is in this card. And it's nice to tuck them up underneath if you have some pieces that are three-dimensional, because again, that is really going to pull people's attention to what you've done. And there we've got our sparkle. So there you go. This is a super, super fun card. You'll see that the ones that I showed as examples look very, very much the same. I kind of got stuck in a rut as far as the overall design, but they're pretty easy to put together and just really fun and kind of a wow card. So I hope you give this a try. I think anyone who receives it will love it, and I think you're going to love these products. The Tropical Leaf Bundle, the Ladybug stamp set, and punch are just awesome. And what a great way to celebrate the end of spring, almost beginning of summer. And I would love to see what you make. So thanks for stopping by, and I hope you enjoyed it. Until next time, Inky hugs.